Okay, hello, hello, hello. It has been quite a while since I last recorded a YouTube video, and I don't feel like I have to explain why I'm doing this. Just as I go through the content, you will capture an idea of what I'm trying to do here. So, self introductions are kind of unnecessary, I think. In 2021, let's say it was January 1st, I made the decision to stop drinking alcohol. Now, this was no easy decision, as I had been a very prominent drinker for several years. Alcohol was a major part of my life, but by this point, by January 1st of 2021, alcohol had become what people in my community call a rapacious creditor. So I made the decision, you know what? I am going to take that first step and join Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, okay? So this was, I would I would probably argue that this was the best decision I have ever made. However, between January 1st and around March of the same year, I was extremely depressed. You see, what the active alcoholic doesn't realize is that while you are drinking, alcohol becomes so interlaced with every aspect of your life that once you give it up, or that giving it up will be, or rather feels as bad as losing a relationship. I mean, it is a relationship between me and the alcohol. So this, what was happening here was kind of the inverse of a honeymoon stage, right? I was experiencing a lot of internal turmoil. I was extremely self-conscious. I was very withdrawn. The only thing that held me in place during this time was AA. Of course, at this time, I was already a father. I was a husband. I believe I was probably 26, okay? I was a father and a husband. But my relationship with my wife was in dire straits because whatever was holding me in place, the alcohol, was no longer there. So whatever internal strife I was facing, I was projecting onto my wife, okay? And my child didn't fare on much better herself. On March 25th of the same year, I had a relapse. Now, the relapse was predictable. I think if there was someone who might have been observing my life at this time, they might have said, this is bound to happen, right? Like I've said, I was withdrawn. I was projecting my internal strife onto my family. I lost contact with all the other communities I had other than AA. But to be fair, all the other communities I was a part of prior to AA primarily involved drinking. So once I cut drinking out of my life, I realized I lost like 80% of my friends. Like 80% of friends gone. And you have to recall, this is 2021, and something was happening in this year. We had COVID-19 and the pandemic. So, on top of losing contact with people because of the pandemic, I lost another group of people just because I had stopped drinking. So I was extremely, I was stressed, I was lonely, I was sad. Like, everything bad that one man can go through without death. I was experiencing those feelings in this time. When I had that relapse in March, I felt extremely discouraged about joining AA. The first thing that comes to mind is that obviously, if I had a relapse, AA doesn't work. That was my conclusion on this day. After having that first drink, I concluded that obviously AA does not work. But that was obviously false. And I'm very glad that my sponsor at the time, so in AA we have people called sponsors who are kind of just your sobriety mentors basically. So we have sponsors who are sobriety mentors. Okay? So my sponsor at the time, he's a very wise man. I still see him every weekend. He's no longer my sponsor though. My mentor, my sponsor at the time, he said, "Hey Oscar, if you feel that AA isn't working for you right now, you can just take a step back and come back when you feel like you're ready." Now this is the mysterious thing about Alcoholics Anonymous. Many people have associated AA with cults. It is very cultish, they say. But the thing with AA is that no one ever forces you to be a part of AA. In one of the AA traditions, they say, we do this by attraction rather than promotion. And the idea is people who join AA are never asked to go to AA. It is rarely a mandatory situation whereby someone forces you to go to AA. I do know that in America, if someone gets a DUI, one of the requirements, I assume, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you are mandated to go to like AA meetings. I don't know if that's true for the rest of the world. I've seen that in American movies. I am not American myself, obviously. So the principle behind AA is that it's attraction rather than promotion. There are no AA advertisements anywhere, right? At least not where I live, right? The idea is that people who need AA, look for AA, right? AA doesn't come looking for you. So my sponsor said, "Hey Oscar, if you feel like you're not ready for AA, you can step back and come back when you are ready." And that one message made me go back for the next meeting. And when I went back, I decided I'm going to actually take this seriously. Now, for those of you who are not aware, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, has a series of steps that all alcoholics in AA have to, well, you don't have to, but it is recommended that you follow these steps. And there are 12 steps, okay? So I'm sure if you watched movies, you had someone, if you watched like the Chicago drama with the guy, with a crazy family, Shameless. If you've watched Shameless, there's a character called Lip. Lip is the genius brother, and Lip joins AA, and he says, "I'm taking my steps." So he's talking about the 12 steps of AA. Now, you have to take the steps one at a time, 1 through 12, okay? And 1 is maybe the hardest, but the idea is that if you joining AA, coming for your first meeting, means you have completed step 1. And step 1 basically is admitted powerlessness. That my life has become unmanageable. So this is the first step of AA. So why do I talk about AA? The point of this YouTube channel isn't this. Rather, the point of this YouTube is to discuss something that has been brought rather to the forefront of my attention recently. In 2021, after quitting alcohol, I said I was extremely depressed, and I had considered doing something that I can't mention on YouTube. So, something that will, impact the people around me in a very negative way. You can imagine what someone depressed might want to do to himself or herself. That's what I wanted to do. And if it wasn't for AA and this first step, I might have taken that step. And the reason why this step is very powerful is that I have noticed in life, the reason why, at least for me, the reason why one of the main reasons why I was in that place is that I wanted to hold on to something that no longer existed. And that something was power. That something was manageability. I had lost all power over myself, all self-control. My life was unmanageable, but I wanted to force manageability onto my life. I wanted to, wring control into my life. And when I failed, I crumbled. But AA says, hey, Oscar, the reason why you're here is because you're powerless right now. Your life is unmanageable. Now, the next steps, I will not be listing all the steps, by the way. Now, the next steps in AA focus, as far as my understanding goes, on how to reclaim some of that power, how to reclaim some of that manageability. And as I'm recording this, it is July 30th, 2026. A far cry from March of 2021. Now, I am not here to say I have reclaimed all power in my life. I'm not here to say my life is totally manageable. What I intend to tell you in this first video is that every single day, the one power I have is to look at my life and say, okay, this aspect is unmanageable. Okay? So the question is, what can I do? What can I do to deal with the unmanageability? My understanding is that the reason someone like me found himself in the 2021 position is that I was unable to accept these unpalatable truths that I was powerless, that my life was unmanageable. And I'm not here to offer you advice. I'm here to tell you what worked for me. And what worked for me then, as it does today, is that every single day I have to look at my life and say, okay, things are falling apart here. Can something be done about that? Can I talk to someone about that? How do I need help? How can I get help? What else can I focus on? Right? Because what has been brought to the forefront of my attention is that many, many people are experiencing depression. And most people who experience depression are not sad, they're not crying, they're not wailing about their lives, they're not whining. When you meet them, they seem pretty happy. They seem exceptionally happy. They help you, they ask you about your day, they are concerned about you. And if ever they are asked about themselves, they just say, fine. Now, if I think about myself back in March of 2021, I was that guy. I mean, if If you're my wife, you might not think I was that guy, but if you're the people in my circle, you might have said, Oscar seems okay, he's doing really well. You know, his child is one, just turned one. He has a beautiful wife. He has a decent job. He's living in a great city. If you ask Oscar, how are you doing? Oscar says, I'm fine. I'm fine. But Oscar wasn't fine. Right? Because every day I was unable to accept this unpalatable truth. So the question I have for you, dear viewer, what part of your life is unmanageable? Are you even willing to accept that there are things about your life that are unmanageable? Number one. Number two, if you can accept that, how far are you willing to go to make an effort to change that fact? Are you willing to make a call? Are you willing to work on cutting out some habits from your life? Are you willing to speak to yourself a little bit differently? All of these things matter. And I'm not here as a psychologist or a psychiatrist. This does not replace professional help. All I can say is these things, they worked for me. And maybe some of them might work for you. And if you're not an alcoholic, I don't think you need to go to AA, right? But I do believe like these 12-step programs have an enormous impact on the lives of the people who participate. So I'll be posting these videos hopefully once a day. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much. Goodbye.